Hello and welcome to today's episode of Trade Plates TV. I am joined by Jonathan Dunkley, CEO of CarShop. We are here to take your questions, so if you look below the screen now, you'll see there's a little box where you can sign in, tell us your name and ask any questions or any comments if there's anything you'd like to add to what Jonathan says today. So thank you very much for coming along, coming down to the south coast to see us. To start with, you had a record-breaking year last year. How did you achieve that? 5 million?
£5 million, yeah, before tax. I think really it's been that result that we achieved was as a result of a lot of hard work over the last 3 years. So when I became CEO about 3.5 years ago now, we implemented a number of new strategies. So some good examples of that were around data and insight. So making sure we had a real clear understanding around what our ideal stock is by store, what our pricing algorithms need to look like by store as well at model level, and then also supply also. So we've got a pretty unique business model where most of our stock comes from leasing companies on a sale or return basis.
Right.
And there was a need for us to get more control over the volume and mix of stock that we were receiving. And a need to make sure that the partnerships with the leasing companies were as mutually beneficial as they possibly could be as well. So making sure that we could supply the business with adequate stock and the right mix of stock, and using that data was really key. And then the embedding of our core values really and our operational culture. So we have a best car shop in town culture that's very focused around people, as in our colleagues, customer, process and team leadership as well. So making sure that everybody is bought into this concept of being the best car shop in town was really important. And then lastly, probably our digital strategies. So the science behind acquiring customers online, a big shift away from traditional towards more online channels, making sure that our website is best in class as well, and also following the consumer and making sure that our online journeys and our physical store journeys are catered for the today's consumer effectively.
So how has 2016 been in comparison?
So 2016 started well, so we're 23% up. So we've sort of maintained that position all the way through the year as well, so quite stable. On the negative side, margins aren't quite where we'd like them to be. So there are a few more cars in the marketplace, and people are being quite aggressive around their pricing strategies. But overall, we're in really good shape, and I'm really pleased with the progress. So we'll have another year of delivering, really strong growth into the business.
Have you got any plans for the future, expanding further? How many staff are you up to now?
So we've got around 540 colleagues.
Wow. And 6 sites, is it?
Yeah, 6 sites if you include our Leighton Buzzard preparation facility, where all the vehicles get processed through and then they're prepared and farmed out to the stores. So yeah.
So are you planning to move to any other areas?
We've got a plan around where we want to go. We're hoping to get a new store open by late this year, and we've got a number of other stores in the pipeline. So we look really carefully at the demographic profile of each of these areas and the propensity for that area to buy our type of product, and the competition in the area as well. So we've got a clear sort of pipeline of stores and ambitious to grow steadily, open one store every year, so that we can control and manage that growth while making sure that our organic growth in the existing stores is really strong as well. So we're growing those existing store locations to capacity at the same time.
Is there like an ideal number of cars you'd like to be selling a year, or is it just whatever you can physically do?
Yeah, I mean, the ideal amount is as many as possible, isn't it? I mean, this year we'll hit just over 25,000, so a good number. And next year with a new store on board, that will move to over 30,000. Is the plan. One of the things we focus around quite strongly now is stock turn. So looking at how far can we push that stock turn, and what's the optimum balance between stock turn and margin.
Right.
Because clearly if you make your cars cheaper, you'll probably turn them a bit more quickly, but there's an optimum point that we need to find here, which is an ongoing process.
I guess that changes every time car prices change and...
Yeah, the market's constantly moving, so we're always, adjusting prices and checking the mix of stock in certain stores and seeing where the movements are. But it's a constantly evolving, moving feast. So we're always on top of every element of the performance.
So you've been at CarShop for 11 years now. How much have you seen it change since you started?
It's changed hugely. I mean, I started on the shop floor as a sales executive, and in those days it was quite old school. So there was, say, 30 salesmen on the pitch, 2 or 3 probably moving towards the same customer at the same time.
Oh, really?
A very strict sort of customer journey. And I think now that, the industry, especially over the last sort of 5 or 6 years or so, has really changed, really started to, listen to the customer and what they need, advancements in technology and digital capability and the quality of people and, understanding the importance of colleague engagement and development of colleagues. So, the market and the industry has changed hugely over the last 10 years for sure.
So you've been CEO for 3.5 years now, you said.
Yeah.
How did you go from sales executive to CEO?
So a bit of right place, right time, and quite a lot of hard work and strong performance. I started on the shop floor. It was my first job when I finished education.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a shock to the system, being dumped onto the forecourt and a bit of a reality check. But really enjoyed the buzz of it. The closing of the deal. Every day was different. The camaraderie, the banter within the team. So that was a lot of fun. So I was successful as a sales executive. Became a business manager after 9 months and did quite well. And at that point there was a little bit of change in the management team within the business. They were more focused around people and retaining customers, so I was lucky enough to be put onto a sort of fast track and a mentoring scheme at that point. So I moved through the various roles quite quickly and was given additional kind of coaching and training. So it's been great for me, CarShop, really. So yeah.
Did you ever think when you first started that you'd like to be CEO one day, or did you see yourself on the management team?
No, I think when I first started, I was more thinking about how am I going to make sure that I, sell some cars and hit my targets and get paid some good commission. But I suppose it was only about 7 years ago when I really thought I could make a career out of this.
Oh, really? Okay.
I could potentially go maybe not all the way to the top, but to the senior management team certainly. I've been lucky enough to be given the opportunity, so it's good. And
have there been any things you're particularly proud of since you become CEO that you've put into place?
I think there's been a lot of things. Sometimes it's difficult to pinpoint particular things, but the record result last year was fantastic for the business. Record colleague engagement rates have been really positive. We've won a number of awards, including Car Dealer Magazine, Car Supermarket of the Year.
We'll pay you later for that.
No problem. Which is great to get that sort of recognition from the industry as well. Yeah. We've brought a lot of the digital, all of the digital team and the software team in-house as well, so we've got control over our own destiny. Centralisation of preparation at our Leighton Buzzard factory to give us greater control over consistency of the production line and economies of scale. And there's quite a few examples, but it's hard to pinpoint.
Were those the big changes you brought in though when you became CEO?
Yeah, I think the stuff that I talked about earlier. So a real focus on data, making sure that we're analysing things properly, and that's fueling the decisions we're making, not guesswork and our experience. And then making sure that we have the strategies in place to be able to deliver on those things, such as the right amount of cars coming to the business, such as the right mix of cars, a great customer experience, the technology to support all of those things as well.
So the big topic at the moment that we have to talk about, and if anyone wants to add anything, is of course Brexit.
Yeah.
What was your gut reaction to that?
I was surprised and massively disappointed as well. It's definitely not helpful. It's not good news for our industry. Clearly, people are going to be worse off, which is going to affect their desire and ability to spend. I think on a positive note, we're in a place now, it's happened and we need to move on and get on with it. Used cars are traditionally a lot more resilient than new cars, so that used car market tends to be quite stable and consistent. And there's 7 million used car transactions to go at every year. So from a selfish perspective, I think that we just need to get that little bit sharper, make those improvements, and hopefully we won't see too much of an impact. I'm confident that we won't see too much of an impact. From a new car perspective, I think there's going to be some more pain to come there, unfortunately.
So of course you've got the MG franchise.
Yeah.
Where did the decision come to add new cars to a very successful used car business?
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at the time strategically, how do we diversify our proposition? How do we enter new markets? How do we grow incrementally? And a new car for us was a key area we wanted to move into. So the new MG franchise has been great for us. We've learnt a lot from it. We're growing really strongly as the brand grows, as well as the product range improves. The interesting thing for us with new car as well is that we know that the propensity to buy a new car or nearly new car online is a lot higher. Right. So we're doing some interesting tests at the moment around MG and pushing it to our home delivery market with bespoke messaging to see where we can take that. So over time, hopefully we'll be able to add more manufacturers as we go. The vision really for our business is to create a retail part for cars effectively. So somewhere you can go to buy a new car, a used car, have your car serviced, just sell your car. So that's kind of the vision that
I guess you've got them the whole way through the journey from their first car to all the way up the line and all their families. Yeah,
exactly. Which is all about retaining our customers for life and creating that positive word of mouth and being a one-stop shop really.
Do you think that retaining customers is more important than acquiring new ones, or when it comes to growing a business?
I think if you're not retaining your customers, then your cost of acquisition is going to be really challenging. So we've definitely got a huge focus on making sure that we're doing everything we can to retain our customers, not only from the point of view of giving them a great experience, but also from the point of view of having the right product in the right location for them, at the right price, a convenient and efficient journey, creating that seamless customer experience right through from online through to our contact centre and into the store as well. But also that we've got all the services that they want. So servicing has been a key win for us, making sure that we could open our service centres on site, which before we centralised preparation of our vehicles, that's something that we couldn't do. So making sure that we can provide the customer with that one-stop shop is really key. And obviously at the same time making sure that we're deploying that marketing spend as efficiently as possible.
So how does that work at CarShop if someone wants their car serviced? Do they take it to their local CarShop, or does it go to your central workshop?
So they can take it to Leighton Buzzard if they want to, but obviously the vast majority of customers go to their local store.
And so you mentioned before that you've added in the home delivery service.
Yeah.
Where did the decision to do that come from?
Again, it was in recognition that some of our customers wanted to shop from the comfort of their sofa. Most customers love to come into store, love to interact with us, touch and feel the product, take a test drive. But there are an amount of customers that actually hate the idea of going into a car dealership. So it really was about our mantra of allowing the customer to shop in the way that they want to, whether they want to have that home delivery, or whether they want to reserve and then collect in store, or whether they just want to do some research online and then walk straight in. So it's about being flexible, and by being flexible we make sure that we maximise every opportunity that we get to our website.
So what sort of numbers are you seeing around people wanting home delivery, or people that want to just buy it online and then come in and collect it?
So around 5% of our volume is home delivery today.
That's quite a large number, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite a big number, and about 23% is reserve and collect. So people that have left a deposit before they actually come into the store.
I find that incredible, but I think I'm in a little bit of a bubble where I assume that everyone wants to go and see their car first.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite incredible that people will just have them delivered to their house. Do you get many of them that go? I guess the onus is on you, isn't it, to make sure that they're right in the first place. So
yeah, most
of the time are they happy?
Yeah, they are, and they're obviously you do get some returns because it's distant seller regulation. So you do sometimes get some returns, but no, overall it's not a part of our business that we're trying to force. It's just a service that we offer. So if the customer wants to shop in that way, then they can.
So what changes do you think that you need to make to your business or the industry generally to cope with the changes in the used car market and when it comes to the change in behaviour? Is there anything else apart from the digital journey that needs to improve?
I think one of the challenges will be increased transparency in the market.
Right.
So, Auto Trader will soon be launching finance online and their finance search tool. So that will bring an element of increased transparency and some challenge. And CarGurus and Auto Trader with their price checks as well. So managing transparency, I think, is going to be key, and how we use that to our advantage. That's going to be important. The continued use of data to fuel the decision making is going to be key as well, and making sure that we are obviously giving these customers a fantastic experience, because the reality is that these customers can go anywhere and buy a car. Pricing is very similar across the board. You don't tend to get the really expensive dealers anymore, because that model just doesn't work. So where we can really separate ourselves is by giving that great customer experience.
So you mentioned Auto Trader and CarGurus. You must get a lot of people coming to you, lots of different used car portals, trying to get you to use their services. Are there any that stand out to you as like the must use?
Well, clearly, Auto Trader today, they're very dominant in the marketplace. They're a very important channel for us, as they are a lot of other dealers as well. So, CarGurus entering is going to be really interesting. They've proved that they can make their model work and dominate in the US and in Canada. So you'd probably back them to be relatively successful here. So it's going to be interesting to watch that. One of my key concerns is making sure that we don't see an increased cost of acquisition because of this.
Right.
So, if we end up having to pay Auto Trader and another big player, and there's really no sense of incrementality, overall return on investment is going to be put under pressure. So it's going to be important that we manage that process effectively as well. And Auto Trader going through a period of pricing alignment or price transparency in the market as well, which is going to be interesting to watch. We work really closely with Auto Trader. They're smart guys, but ultimately there is always a tipping point in terms of return on investment, and there comes a point where you do start to consider, when you're spending that lump of money in that area of the business through that channel, could I reinvest that in other ways, and are we becoming too dependent on that channel as well? So it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves.
The cost of used car advertising is obviously quite controversial, and talking about this tipping point always seems to come up. But do you think having a second one being successful, is that going to make that tipping point sooner and actually sort of backfire on the industry?
It could do. I think people need to be mindful of what listing cars on sites for free really means.
Yeah.
So we kind of need to look towards what the long-term plan is, and what's going to happen once CarGurus do gain traction, and what that means to our overall spend and acquisition costs. But ultimately, we need to make sure that we are demanding really high returns from all of our channels. We're measuring them all correctly, and then we can take the appropriate decisions. But there's definitely going to be some interesting times ahead with regards online marketplaces.
Are you seeing more of a shift towards your website compared to people coming into store?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing 96% of our customers visit our website before they come into store, so it's a huge amount. Although we're seeing increases in reserve and collects and home delivery, I think what we're going to see over time is that actually, as online becomes more transparent, that more customers are going to walk straight in because they're going to have the information. So there's no need to make that contact with us until they come into the dealership to actually make the transaction happen. So one of the things that we're really focused around is self-service online, or create my deal. So giving the customer the ability to value their part exchange, which we do today, but they haven't got the option to guarantee their part exchange valuation.
Right.
So that's something we're looking at really closely, so they can complete their own appraisal on the car and effectively guarantee their valuation.
Like go through a form and say what's wrong with it, what's right with it.
Yeah, and then we would check that in store. So these are ideas that we're looking at the moment, and obviously the finance piece as well, making sure that they can understand what rate they score for, because we've got a very transparent pricing system where we work with Equifax, and the customer gets the rate that they score for, whether they be an excellent customer or a very good customer or an average customer. So it's a very transparent, fair process. It's not a case of our business managers have any autonomy to move the rate unless it's for a price match. So increased transparency, more control to the consumer, and not being afraid of giving them that control, because we shouldn't have anything to hide.
Do you see, I don't want to say this obviously you have a lot of employees, but do you see more a shift that you might reduce what's going on actually in store because the website is so effective? Or is it still really important that people come into store and see the cars? And
yeah, I think the big focus for us is making sure that we're listening to the consumer, we're following the consumer. But the reality is that it is all about clicks and bricks. We know that most of the customers want to have that great experience with our colleagues, and our colleagues are our most important asset within the organisation. We focus a lot on engagement and development of colleagues, because we know it's if we look after our colleagues, they're going to give a great experience to our customers. So our in-store colleagues and the support departments are always going to play a big part. Do
you see the value in your colleagues because you've come through that process? You've worked with lots of different people, I'm guessing, throughout your time there.
Yeah, I think probably seeing the business from the grassroots up, I can empathise with certain situations at times that our colleagues are going through. So I think that's been helpful as I've moved through the various roles and tried to make changes to make life easier, but also to make sure that we're really clear about our expectations.
Yeah. Do you think it's streamlined the way that you support your staff?
Yeah, no. So making sure that we support our staff is obviously, really important, and demonstrating that we're listening.
Yeah.
The most frustrating thing for a staff member is feeling like they're not being listened to. And actually the reality is that they've got the best feedback because they're on the shop floor dealing with the customers on a day-to-day basis. They know what the challenges are, so it's no good just strategizing at the top and creating these great plans if you're not listening to your colleagues and you're not listening to your customers as well.
What's your formula for ensuring that you have the best staff?
I think it does start with basic things such as pay and rewards. We need to make sure that we're paying people appropriately and we're rewarding them for the right job, and all of those ancillary benefits are right as well in terms of pensions and healthcare, so that we're attracting them. But it is also about making sure that we are giving them great training and great support, and that it's a fun, engaging environment to work in. Because nobody wants to get up and go to a job they don't enjoy every morning, do they? I
always think CarShop looks like quite a fun dealership to work in.
Yeah. No, I hope that it is a fun place to work. Like any business, there's times when it's challenging, and we need to dig in and move forward as a team. But I think that's the key. When we get a challenge today, we work together as a team to push forward. And 9 times out of 10, we achieve our objectives. I mean, for the last 3 years, we've achieved all of the key milestones and profit objectives and strategic objectives that we wanted to. So, the team is really important, and
And so you've got a silver award for investors in people, is that correct?
Yeah, so we've got the Silver Investors in People Award, which is important that we get that external benchmark also, because we want that feedback from the external bodies to say, well, okay, this is what you're doing really well, but this is what we want you to work on, and this is where we can move forward. So we're taking that feedback from colleague surveys, from people like Investors in People, from focus groups, etc., to use all of that to shape our people strategy. And drive it forward, and we're hoping that within the next 12 to 18 months we'll be given gold status Investors in People. So it's a real big focus internally for us to achieve that.
That's really good. So what are your big goals for the next 5 years? You've got some targets you'd like to hit?
Yeah. I think it will be about making sure that we can open a store every year.
Yeah.
And that we continue to drive growth across the business. It'll be a real landmark moment when we get our next store open, hopefully late this year or early next. I do, yes.
Are you allowed to tell us?
No. No, I think it's important until something's done that we don't.
Is it going to be like a last minute reveal?
Yeah,
when the wrapper comes off the building, then we'll know.
Yeah, something like that. I think we'll probably reveal it, 2 or 3 months before we open, when we start, advertising for staff, etc. So, exciting times. Continue to grow the business. Make sure that we focus on the strategies that have worked for us over the last 3 years, but also recognise that it's about continuous evolution and improvement. What's next for our business? How do we need to improve next? Continually challenging ourselves. Because as soon as you stand still and you think that you've made it, then it will start to go wrong around you. So it's always about constant evolution.
Did you have any targets when you first became CEO that you wanted to hit, and have you hit them?
I had the budget that I was given. That
Right.
I was told quite firmly that these are the numbers that you need to hit. So that was really the first objective. The first objective. It was really important in that first full 12 months of trading that we hit those budget and profit expectations, which we did, and you know, we've now begun to surpass those objectives as well. So that was the key thing, to make sure we hit the budgeted profit numbers.
That's usually the way it is, isn't
Yeah.
it? It sounds like it's a really exciting time at CarShop. And I'm going to have to keep calling you every week and saying, so where are you opening? Where are you opening? Because I need to know now. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really interesting to hear about what's going on.
No problem.
Exciting times. And thank you to everyone who's been watching for joining in. We will be announcing very soon when our next show is going to be. And also, if you would like to join us, if you'd like to sit on the sofa, get in touch. You can email me on info@tradeplates.tv, or you can tweet TradePlatesTV @TradePlatesTV. Find us on Facebook. We are just TradePlatesTV. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear about what you guys want to talk about. So send me over your messages, whether they're rude, nice, lovely. We want to hear your feedback. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.